Chosen one. The bone-deep certainty you felt that something was working against you has shifted from a diagnosis into a devastating reality for your enemy. Someone is about to unalive from Spellwork backfiring. This X is traveling towards a total spiritual and physical dismantling because the energy they sent to destroy you has returned to its source with catastrophic force. You weren't paranoid. You correctly identified a malicious intention that has now collapsed under its own weight. There was a season where everything should have been working and wasn't. You were doing the practice, the real practice, not the surface version, not the performance of spirituality, but the actual unglamorous daily discipline of someone who takes themselves seriously. You were protecting your energy, building your boundaries, and showing up to your own life, even on the days it cost something to show up. And still the doors stayed closed. Opportunities that should have opened did not. Money that should have moved stalled out. People who should have arrived went quiet. And you started to wonder, am I the problem? Let me be precise about what was actually happening. When disruption in your life originates from you, from your own patterns, your own unresolved wounds, your own misaligned thinking, it looks like a pattern. It has a repetition, a route you can trace back to something inside yourself. What you were experiencing did not look like that. What you experienced was surgical, specific targets, specific timing, specific opportunities intercepted at the exact moment they were supposed to land. That is not karma working itself out. That is not the universe handing you a patience lesson. That is someone's hands in your business. Someone who knew exactly what mattered to you, exactly which pathways you were building toward, exactly which relationships could be poisoned, and exactly which dreams could be quietly strangled before they were big enough to defend themselves. This was not distant dislike, because distant dislike does not invest this much. This was someone with access to your life, to your circle, possibly to your blood, who used that access as a tactical advantage against you. Hold this truth close, because you are going to need it later. Everything they tried to redirect away from you is still there. It is waiting, with interest. The interference only created a delay. It never created a cancellation. Now let's talk about who this person actually is, because the vague outline is not serving you anymore. What this person carries toward you is not dislike, it is obsession. There is an important difference between the two. Dislike is impersonal, obsession is intimate. This person has measured themselves against you, against your gifts, your spiritual awareness, your ability to attract love and abundance and purpose, and felt something sharp when the measurement did not land in their favor. Where most people would do the hard thing, look inward, do the work, grow, this person chose a different door. They decided the problem was your presence. They positioned themselves as spiritually formidable. They told others, and they told themselves that their energy was so potent, so developed, so charged that when intention is set, it lands. And they had evidence. They had prior wins with softer targets who were not grounded the way you are grounded. Those wins built an arrogance that became bold enough to scale that energy in your direction without fully understanding what they were actually aiming at. What they did not factor in was your coverage, not just the work you have done recently, though that matters. The generational coverage, the ancestral protection that has been around you since before you were born, working on your behalf in every season you could feel it and every season you could not. This person researched the you they could see. They did not account for everything standing behind you. A person who overestimates their own power and underestimates yours has already decided the outcome of this story. They just do not know it yet. This is someone in your intimate circle, a family member, a sibling, a cousin, or someone from whom you made the brave and sometimes brutal decision to create distance because the dynamic consistently felt like competition rather than love. It may also be someone who overlapped both, a romantic connection and a family connection tangled into the kind of betrayal that carries its own unmistakable texture of pain. Your body knows exactly who is being described here. It already confirmed it before your mind finished processing the words. They did not just think negative thoughts in your direction. They worked. They invested time, resources, and possibly other people into it. There was ritual involved, whether that looks like formal spiritual practice or the sustained, focused projection of malicious intention backed by obsessive fixation. The functional result is identical. Energy was directed with clear purpose toward a specific target. That target was you, your opportunities, your relationships, and your ability to move forward without friction. The areas targeted were not random. Momentum was the first target, because momentum is the most difficult thing to rebuild once it stalls. When you interrupt someone's forward motion at exactly the right moment, right when the next door is within reach, the doubt compounds naturally from there. Your inner voice starts scanning for what is wrong inside you, rather than naming what is being blocked outside you. You went through that stalling. You experienced that inexplicable friction on things that should have been straightforward. Every bit of it was targeted. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. Your relationships were the second target. The connections that would have supported your growth, the aligned people, the ones who saw your value clearly, found interference placed deliberately in those pathways. Information may have been subtly distorted. Perceptions may have been quietly shaped through the kind of social engineering that moves through whispers, implications, and strategic omissions rather than outright lies. You may have experienced it as warmth cooling for no apparent reason, as people pulling back in ways you could not identify or explain. Now you have your explanation. The third target, and this one was the most ambitious, which is precisely why it backfired the hardest, was your self-concept. This was the sustained effort to make you doubt yourself deeply enough that your own clarity became unreliable. A chosen one who trusts themselves fully is unstoppable, and this person understood that. So the strategy was to corrode that trust from the inside through manufactured setbacks and the slow drip of repeated disappointment, all designed to make you conclude that you were the variable that needed changing. Here is what you need to understand about spellwork when it bounces back. It does not return neutralized. It returns amplified by the energy that was used to sustain it. Every moment spent obsessing over you, feeding the working, refreshing the intention, all of that energy has now reversed direction. The obsession that powered the attack is the same obsession now powering the return. What is happening to this person right now is directly proportional to the magnitude of what was sent, and a great deal was sent. Before we arrive at the turning point of this, I want to validate something specific for you. There were signs, clear, recognizable signs, that something was being worked against you, and you talked yourself out of trusting them. Not because you were naive, but because reasonable people do not want to believe that someone close to them is actively doing dark work in their direction. So you found other explanations. Here is the truth your nervous system has been waiting to hear. Those were not coincidences. When something fell through at the last moment, when an opportunity that was essentially confirmed suddenly and inexplicably collapsed, that was not random timing. Situations do not fall apart the way yours did without a specific disruption at the energetic level. The physical world is always downstream from the spiritual one. What you saw in the material, the sudden reversal, the strange coolness from someone who had been warm, the door that closed without logical explanation, had a spiritual cause that predated the physical event by days, maybe longer. You were right to feel that something had been tampered with. It had been. When your sleep changed, when you started waking in the early hours with a low-grade unease you could not source, when your dreams became heavy or strange or filled with a particular person, that was your field processing incoming energy and flagging it for your attention. The body is the first alert system available to you. Long before the mind is ready to name what is happening, the body already knows. The interrupted sleep, the persistent dread with no obvious cause, the strange sense of being monitored even in private spaces, these are all consistent with being inside the field of someone who is directing focused hostile attention toward you. Your body was not being dramatic. It was performing exactly the function it was built to perform. The most insidious sign was the intrusive self-doubt that arrived precisely in the areas where you had been most confident. It did not feel like an external attack. It felt like internal revelation, like you were finally seeing yourself clearly and finding yourself inadequate. That was the lie embedded at the center of the working. That specific confidence, that specific area of your identity, you already know which one took the hit. But here is what I need you to understand. The clarity you had before the interference is not gone. It was suppressed by external noise. And as the source of that noise continues to unravel, you are going to feel it returning, not as arrogance, as the quiet, settled certainty of someone who knows exactly who they are and exactly what they are here to do. That certainty is already on its way back to you. Chosen ones, they never expected this, and they really didn't expect us to keep talking. You've noticed it. Chosen one channels disappearing, videos pulled, voices scrubbed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice, and now we have something they truly can't silence. The technology used to suppress consciousness has been reverse engineered, and Destiny Engine is the result. What was once used against humanity is now your ascension weapon. Join Destiny Engine, and you're supporting your favorite channels while leveling up yourself at the same time. It's a 360 win. You can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. Destiny Engine bypasses the conscious mind and rewrites the source code directly. Reality bends faster. Synchronicities stack. Your nervous system upgrades to a higher bandwidth. Put on headphones, press play. That's all. For $1 you switch sides of history. Click the link in the description. The takeover is internal. Now we arrive at the center of everything. When malicious energy, intention wrapped in jealousy, obsession and dark spiritual direction meets a genuinely protected field, it does not dissolve, it ricochets. The physics are straightforward. It carries the full force with which it was thrown. And when it cannot penetrate its target, it reverses with that same force back toward the origin point, carrying everything that was put into it. Every sleepless night of obsession, every ritual fed by spite, every act of deliberate spiritual aggression, all of it, back. Your protection is not a wall. Most people carry the image of a spiritual barrier sitting between themselves and what is incoming, but that is not what you have. What you carry is more like a field. A living, responsive, intelligent field that does not merely block what approaches, it reads incoming energy, assesses it, and responds appropriately. A wall absorbs an impact and holds the damage inside. A field reads an impact and decides what to do with it. When the dark working arrived at your field, it was recognized for exactly what it was and returned to its origin, cleanly, without your interference, without you having to make a single conscious decision about it. This is why you never needed to retaliate. The field was already handling it. Every time you chose love when hate was available, every time you protected your peace when reacting would have been easier, every time you kept your intentions clean when compromising them would have cost you less in the short term, you were investing in the field. You were making it stronger, more responsive, and more precise, and the more potent a field becomes, the more completely anything incoming that carries hostile intent is returned to the one who sent it. When this person aimed at you, they did not aim at the version of you they thought they knew. They aimed at a person. They hit an inheritance. An inheritance backed by generations cannot be dismantled by any single person's working, regardless of how much obsession is poured into it. The field does not tire. It does not develop a vulnerable window that persistent effort can eventually exploit. A working directed at a field like yours does not erode the field over time, it erodes the person doing the working. That is why this person is so depleted right now. They were not doing a single working and waiting patiently for results. They were sustaining something, actively feeding something over an extended period, and every sustained attempt cost the one sending it. The maintenance price has now fully come due. You are not tired from this. Your core is intact. In fact, your field is more refined by the testing than it was before the testing began. That is the gift hidden inside everything that was thrown at you. This person paid for your upgrade. It starts quietly. Reversed dark energy does not announce itself. It seeps. The things that previously went a certain way begin going sideways. People who were loyal start becoming inconsistent without being able to explain their own shift. The version of themselves that was being projected, powerful, covered, spiritually elevated, starts meeting resistance it never encountered before. Not dramatic resistance, quiet resistance, the kind that cannot be argued with or outmaneuvered because it has no face and responds to no negotiation. The spiritual tools that were used against you no longer function the way they once did for this person. You cannot use a weapon that has misfired and expect it to fire cleanly again. The sense of potency they were operating from has been fundamentally compromised by the reversal itself. Attempts to stabilize what is unraveling are being made from a depleted field, and every attempt from that depleted field compounds the problem. What was once a source of projected confidence has become a source of private terror, because in the hours when the ego cannot sustain its usual defenses, the knowing surfaces, the knowing of what was done, of the choice that was made, of the law that was broken by coming after someone like you. That knowing does not announce itself as guilt, it surfaces as dread, a formless, inescapable weight that follows this person from morning to night. Here is what I need you to do with everything I just told you. Absolutely nothing. Not 1 ounce of your attention, not 1 moment of your energy. What comes to collect what is owed does not require your participation to complete its work. Divine order is a law, impersonal, ancient and perfectly precise, and it is already fully in motion without any instruction from you. Your only job now is to turn your face forward, because what is in front of you is far more important than anything behind you. There is something that needs to be said directly before we move forward, and it is something most conversations like this one skip over entirely in the rush to get to the blessings. Surviving targeted spiritual interference does not leave you intact, it leaves you transformed, and the transformation is not gentle. It is not the kind of quiet growth that happens when life simply moves along at its natural pace. It is the specific cellular level change that happens when something real is thrown at you with real force, and you hold, not because nothing happened, because something happened and you did not collapse under it. You are different now in ways that are going to take time to fully catalogue. Your discernment has sharpened in ways that cannot be taught in any room or learned from any book. You can feel the difference now between someone who is genuinely aligned with your well-being and someone who is performing alignment while quietly taking inventory. You can feel the difference between an opportunity that belongs to you and one that is a test. You can feel, earlier than most people ever develop the capacity to feel, when energy around you is clean versus when something has been placed in it intentionally. That ability, that precision of perception, was forged in exactly the season you just came through. Consider what it cost to build that. Consider what had to happen to your nervous system, your intuition, your sense of spiritual discernment for it to become as refined as it is right now. Consider that most people spend their entire lives never developing it at all because they were never tested in the specific way you were tested. What was done against you in the dark became a kind of involuntary training that no curriculum could replicate. The person who came for you accidentally made you into someone far harder to come for. That is one layer of what surviving this actually did to your power. The second layer is in your relationship with yourself. Before this season, you may have had confidence. What you have now is something more durable than confidence. Confidence is built on results, on things going well, on evidence that you are capable, on the feedback loop of effort producing outcomes. What you have now is conviction. Conviction is what remains when results disappear, when the feedback loop breaks down, when the evidence of your capability gets systematically blocked. You kept going without the evidence. You kept building without the results. You kept choosing yourself without the confirmation that it was going to pay off. That practice, doing the work in the complete absence of proof that the work is working, builds something in a person that cannot be shaken by external circumstances because it was never dependent on them in the first place. You built conviction. And conviction is what the next season requires. Not confidence, which is reactive and fragile. Conviction, which is structural and permanent. The third layer is this: you know now what you are actually made of. Not what you thought you were made of, not what you hoped you were made of, what you actually are. Because difficulty of this kind is the only honest mirror available to any of us. Easy seasons reflect a pleasant version of who we might be. Hard seasons reflect who we actually are, when everything that is not essential has been stripped away. What the mirror showed you, in the hardest moments of this season, was someone who kept choosing integrity when it cost them. Someone who kept choosing love when resentment was the more available option. Someone who kept moving forward when stopping was fully justified. That is who you are. That is what you are made of. And the season coming is going to be met by exactly that person. Chosen one. This is the part that is going to hit like recognition rather than information. You felt alone in this. There were more moments than you would like to count where you carried the weight of what was happening in the private hours, in the early mornings before anyone else was awake, in the parts of your experience you could not translate for anyone around you. The people closest to you either could not understand the depth of what you were navigating, were too close to the situation to be objective, or were entangled in ways you were still in the process of untangling. And yet you were never alone. Not for a single moment. The divine backing you carry is not something earned through perfect behavior. It is not something that can be lost through imperfect moments or difficult seasons. It was placed with you before you arrived here, written into the architecture of who you are, built into your purpose before you were conscious enough to claim it. The forces working on your behalf are not conditional forces. They did not retreat when things got hard. They were most active when things were hardest, building in you what comfort could never have built, and carving out a capacity in you that only difficulty can create. Think about every moment you were certain you were going to break and you did not break. Think about every moment where the only honest explanation for how you got through was something larger than your own strength operating alongside you. That was not luck, that was not coincidence, that was the backing doing exactly what it was always designed to do. Your ancestors, the ones who walked hard roads before you, who carried extraordinary weight so that your load could be lighter, they have been watching this specific situation unfold. They cleared paths you did not know were being cleared. They redirected threats you never knew were approaching. Nothing that is arriving in this next season of your life is accidental. It was prepared and held in trust for exactly the version of you that the fire was in the process of forging. Before we get into what is coming, and what is coming is real and significant, I need to name the one thing that has the potential to slow it down, not stop it, slow it. You carry a specific wound that has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with experience. It is not a wound of unworthiness exactly, though it can look like that from the outside. It is a wound of distrust around good things, a reflexive suspicion that anything genuinely beautiful arriving must have a hidden cost attached, must come with a condition that has not yet been disclosed. It is the scar tissue left by years of love being leveraged against you, of good things being used as the setup for something more painful, of people giving with one hand while preparing to take with the other. The person at the center of this situation reinforced that wound repeatedly and deliberately, and the wound now has a reflex that activates automatically. When something clean and aligned arrives, a voice, old, familiar, and immediate, says, "Wait, something is wrong. This is too good." I need you to recognize before that moment arrives that the voice is the scar talking. It is not wisdom, it is not discernment, it is the scar. Wisdom has genuine discernment. Wisdom can distinguish a red flag from a clean invitation. The wound cannot make that distinction. It treats everything incoming as potentially dangerous, which means it turns away the harvest right alongside the threats. Your work this season is not more protection, not more fortifying, not more clearing. You have done all of that with real excellence, and it is complete. Your work now is the harder practice, letting good things be good without reaching for the trap door, receiving without immediately dismantling what arrives, trusting the table without looking underneath it for the catch. That is the last piece of the old armor that needs to come off. It is the hardest piece, but you did not survive everything you survived to stand at the entrance of your best season and refuse to walk through the door. There is a path of advancement in your life that was being deliberately clogged, not a random opportunity, a threshold, a genuine crossing from the version of you shaped by survival into the version of you built for real expansion. A period of growth, guidance, or elevated learning that would have fundamentally upgraded your relationship with your own abilities, with money, with purpose, and with the authority you carry. This person understood, consciously or intuitively, that if you crossed that threshold, the comparison game they had been running internally would collapse under the obvious weight of how different your trajectories were becoming. So they moved against the threshold itself. It did not work. What was built for you does not function in anyone else's hands. Your advancement was never permanently cancelled. It was temporarily congested. Now that the source of the congestion is fully occupied with its own unraveling, the road ahead of you is cleaner than it has been in a long time. Financial growth is part of what moves through this pathway. The skills you have been quietly developing, the understanding of how to build and sustain real prosperity, what you have been cultivating in private is about to become significantly more visible and significantly more rewarded. The work you planted without applause, without anyone watching, without external validation to lean on, is germinating right now. The harvest arriving is proportional to what was planted, and because so much was held back by interference, it is arriving with the full accumulated weight of everything that was delayed on top of it. The new doors opening for you are structurally different from the doors you have walked through before. The old doors had people behind them who wanted something from you, your energy, your ideas, your output, your generosity, your light. These new doors have people behind them who want to build alongside you, people who recognize your value as something that complements their own path rather than competing with it. These introductions are being arranged, the table is being cleared, what is arriving is clean, and it was always intended for you. There is a person who was once deeply and specifically close to you, and there is energy from that person currently moving in your direction. What existed between you was not small, not casual, and not the kind of connection that fades cleanly into indifference. You both know that. And that knowing is precisely what is driving the movement you can feel coming from their direction right now. Something occurred, a loss, a reversal, a disappointment, significant enough to strip away the usual layer of ego protection, and the truth that entered through the opening was this: what they had with you was rare, not perfect, not uncomplicated, but rare in the specific way a person only recognizes clearly after spending real time measuring everything that came after it against what they walked away from. Nothing compared, nothing came close. Now here is the spiritual layer that most people miss entirely. When this person was working against you, whether they participated consciously in that dynamic or were simply aligned with the energy of someone who wanted you diminished, they built everything that came after on a crooked foundation. Every connection made in the space created by your absence was constructed partly in opposition to what you represented, and what is built in opposition to truth does not hold the way something built on truth holds. It wobbles over time, it reveals its instability, and eventually the person standing on that foundation begins to feel the wobble beneath their feet. That wobble is what is sending them back toward you. Their return is not a separate event from the backfire, it is a consequence of it. They are not returning from a place of triumph. They are returning from the quiet ruins of a version of life that could not sustain itself without you in it. The obsession that was once directed against you, the fixation, the dark intention, functionally kept them tethered to you, even while actively trying to push you away. Spiritual energy directed with that level of obsession creates bonds, Not the healthy kind, the kind built from unresolved feeling and the residue of someone who could not release what existed between you, even while working to destroy it. Now that the working has reversed and come home, what remains beneath the hostility is pointed directly at you. This is where your clarity becomes the most powerful tool you have. You do not respond to this from surprise. You do not respond from the version of yourself that was still inside the wound of this connection. You respond from the person who has been doing the work, the one who built something real in the absence, the one who now knows their own value from the inside out, the one whose peace is not available as a bargaining chip. Growth in a person is not announced. It is demonstrated, not over a single conversation, not over a brief window of good behavior, but over sustained, consistent, observable time. What this person says when reaching out will tell you relatively little. What they do across the following season will tell you everything you need to know. Your peace is not a fair exchange for even the most sincere and beautifully worded apology. And yet do not allow the scar from having been hurt to become a permanent verdict against something that may have genuinely transformed. You are someone who sees clearly. Trust that clarity over everyone else's opinion, over the people urging reconciliation because it sounds romantic, and over the people urging permanent closure because it sounds like strength. Neither group is living inside your body, with your history, with your specific knowing of this person and what this connection actually was. When the moment arrives, you will know what to do. Trust that knowing. It is the same knowing that correctly diagnosed the interference when everyone around you thought you were imagining things. That knowing has never been wrong about you. And now we come back to where we began. I told you at the start, a flame does not die when someone tries to blow it out. It moves. That flame moved. It found its way through the interference, through the delay, through the long season that looked like loss from the outside but was actually refinement from the inside. It kept burning in the private places, in the discipline you maintained when no one was watching, in the love you chose when choosing hatred would have been so much easier, in the integrity you kept when compromise was sitting right there, available and close. It burned there quietly, without permission, without requiring an audience to stay lit. And now it is burning in your direction. It is burning in every opportunity currently moving toward you. It burns in the financial shift already in motion, in the aligned people finding their way into your world, in the advanced growth that was always meant for you and is finally unobstructed. It is burning in the clarity that has been steadily replacing the fog, in the X who feels a gravitational pull they cannot explain and cannot ignore, and in the reckoning unfolding in the life of someone who believed they could extinguish a light they were never given authority over. The flame is enormous now, bigger than it was before any of this started, because that is what fire under pressure does. It does not merely survive, it expands. What was thrown at it was accelerant. What was intended as a killing blow turned out to be fuel. You are not the same person who entered the difficult season. That person was strong. You are forged. There is a fundamental difference between strength and refinement. Strength can be broken under sufficient pressure. What has been refined by fire does not break under pressure. It becomes the thing that breaks pressure. You have come through something that would have collapsed most people. Most people, facing the level of sustained, strategic, and intimate interference you faced from someone with that kind of access to your life, would have stepped off the path. They would have decided the cost was too high, the evidence of defeat too convincing, and found a smaller, quieter life to settle into. That would have been an entirely understandable response. What you went through was genuinely difficult, but you stayed. You kept building when the building produced nothing visible. You kept showing up when showing up felt like bleeding. You grieved what needed to be grieved, and then you came back. Every single time you came back. And every time you came back, you accumulated something that no one can remove from you, because it is now woven into who you are, into your experience, into the permanent record of who you chose to be, when choosing otherwise was an available and easier option. The person who tried to stop you is standing in the dark of their own making, watching from a distance as what they tried to suffocate burns brighter than it ever has before. And it will keep burning, not because of circumstance, because the source of it is you, and you are not going anywhere. Let them watch. You have a season to step into, a feast that was prepared before you were born, a table with your name on it. Through every delay, every interference, every night you lay awake wondering if any of it was real. It is real. It has always been real. And the door to it is standing open right now, not eventually, not once you feel ready enough, not after one more thing gets resolved. Right now, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are not cursed, you are not the exception to the good things. You are the chosen one. The fire could not consume. The one with the generational backing, the one with the flame that moves, the one whose harvest is arriving now, carrying the full compound weight of everything that was held back. Now stop standing at the door.